Why do you think Turkey's been the largest purchaser of gold in the first 7 or 8 months of this year? Because they want to join BRICS. They want a seat at the table. And when that happens, all of those dollars, which are already, a lot of these dollars aren't even being used to settle trade anymore. They'll get dumped like that. The dollar gets dumped because you don't need to hold it to buy oil anymore. All around the world, people will dump dollars. When those dollars come home, the dollar collapses. That's pillar number one. And as the dollar comes home with a vengeance, there's way more dollars across the globe than there are here. Interest rates spike to the moon. And what happens? Stocks, bonds, real estate are all inversely correlated to a spike in interest rates. The dollar collapses, interest rates spike, stocks, bonds, and real estate at all-time highs, inversely correlated to a rise in rates. There's your villain. There's your great reset, like that. All of these countries joining together. And when they issue a world reserve currency pegged to commodities, it's over in the blink of an eye. The US dollar will be forsaken. And that is how it happens. And that is why you own gold and silver. It's wealth. It's not an investment, Carrie. And that's the message I've been trying to say for 2 years now, really almost 3. And it's eerie to me. Go back and listen to what I've been saying 2-3 years ago. This is the only thing I've been talking about.
Yeah.
People, the negative remarks I get, he says the same thing, but it keeps happening and it's growing. And now you can see it. I've been saying for almost 2 years that OPEC was going to dump us, that Saudi Arabia was going to dump us. And it's this close. And when it happens, it's a religious experience for everyone in this country who thinks they're wealthy with the stock and bond and real estate portfolio, because they all collapse. 2021, we see all of these deals taking place. We see countries that are doing unilateral and bilateral agreements all over the place. We're seeing massive gold accumulation. Russia, Turkey, India, Poland, China, Kazakhstan, Hungary, Thailand, Japan, Brazil. They're all accumulating gold. And now I'm really starting to watch this because they're all accumulating gold. They're all striking deals. And these deals that used to settle in dollars are now unilaterally settling in each other's local currencies.
Wow.
They're all accumulating gold, which is a tier 1 asset. The International Bank, the IMF says we want a new system. Gold's now tier 1. All the central banks are accumulating. You're starting to see there's some stuff going on here. Gold used to back the US dollar until 1971. And towards the end of the Vietnam War, President de Gaulle from France realized that we were printing more money than we had gold backing the dollar. From the end of World War II to 1971, countries could exchange their dollars back to the US for gold at a fixed rate of $35 an ounce. And that was our way of creating a gold-backed currency, creating a tether, if you will, to the value of the dollar. So we can't print more than we have gold behind it. Now, it was illegal to hold gold for people at this point, but countries, governments could exchange their dollars for gold at $35. Well, de Gaulle said, you're printing more. And he sent warships over to New York Harbor filled with dollars and said, give us our gold. We did. Bled down half the gold at the US Treasury, and Nixon closed the gold window. Boom, went back on our promise in August of 1971 to the world. So at that point, after 1971, the dollar's backed by nothing. But 3 years later, Henry Kissinger flew to Saudi Arabia and said to the Saudis, we will protect you. And it's been that way since 1974, with the one stipulation that for that protection, you and OPEC are going to value oil globally in US dollars. And this is the rise of the petrodollar. And it's created a synthetic demand for the dollar where every country on the planet has had to own dollars to buy oil. So this is why the dollar is a world reserve currency. So now I move forward. Here's the third biggest event. The first was gold as a tier 1. The second is the Belt Road Initiative. And the third is what happened the day we left Afghanistan. Russia announces a joint military cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabia, and the next day with Nigeria, another OPEC producing country. When you see these countries not only striking unilateral deals, multilateral deals, all of them in currencies other than the US dollar. Saudi Arabia and India just struck a deal together where Saudi Arabia is going to sell oil for rupee. Russia is selling their oil and natural gas for ruble, for rupee, for yuan, for gold, not for dollars. All of these things used to settle in dollars. You're starting to see countries like Turkey said they want to buy Russian energy and not pay in dollars, but to use local currency. All of these countries are moving away from the Western hypocrisy, the Western hegemony, and the sanctions that has freaked all of these countries out thinking, are we next? Now, in and of themselves, these countries could not challenge the dollar. But how about you put them all together? When you put all of these countries who are joining the BRICS nations and the Belt Road, you're talking over 85% of human population, countries that are superpowers when you put their economies and their military together. The finance minister of Russia said the new currency will be a mix of local currencies and commodities. What was reclassified the only tier one asset in the world? Oh yeah, gold. Who's the largest producer of it in the world? Oh yeah, China. Who's the largest accumulator of it? India. What about Russia? They're right up there too. What about South Africa? They sure got a lot of gold too, don't they? How about the fact that they said it will be other commodities too, like oil? Oh yeah, we got Saudi Arabia who just joined. You got natural gas and oil in Russia. Do you see it as the rallying cry of the Western hypocrisy and dominance that brings all of these countries to the table? So much so that China is building a road and a railway between Iraq and Iran, mending fences that are centuries old, broken, because my enemy's enemy is my friend. And you're seeing even gestures of reconciliation between Iran and Saudi Arabia and all of these countries. It's standing up to the West that is bringing everyone to the table. So here's what I believe will happen. All of these countries are joining BRICS. All of these countries are on the Belt Road Initiative. 85% of human population. Who isn't? Western Europe, Canada, Japan, the US, they're broke, insolvent countries.
And Australia.
And Australia. And all of these other countries are joining together in a commonality, but pegging commodities so that they all have equal footing at the table. How do you show that equal footing? Well, you've got a new blockchain-based, distributed ledger-based, whatever you want to call it, currency, the digital yuan. And it won't be open source, but you will be able to see the veracity and the immutability of all of the commodities that were pegged by all of the governments backing this new currency. And what is a tier one reserve asset again? Who's been accumulating all the gold again? Right. And so my point to you is this: how does it all blow up? How does everything blow up if Powell isn't going to raise rates enough? How about find a villain?